Wow, man, this week has been a whirlwind. Really, this word it's been well, the stock market went up, the stock market went down, changing your mind left, changing your mind right, tariffs coming, tariffs not coming, tariffs in 2 weeks, tariffs in 90 days. What's happening with people, with our market?
Trump.
One word.
That's it. I mean, in his opinions, and he's finally listening to his staff.
Yeah, let's hope so. Well, I'm going to tell you guys, today you're in for a treat. We're going to look at the culture. We're going to talk about the culture. We're going to talk about currency. We're going to talk about conscious thinking. We have an excellent speaker that's just coming up and to join the conversation. And I hope that you will enjoy it as thoroughly as we are. Let me do the proper introduction. Now,
well, who are you?
Oh, I'm Frankie P. I'm Frankie P.
I'm Maria P.
All right. This is the BS Entrepreneurship Podcast. This is the Blackout the 4th edition as we move forward with Blackout the 4th. And what you may ask, what is Blackout the 4th? It is simply a movement that we're doing. And if you'd like to join us, you can feel free to join us. On the 3rd of each month, we are target-based spending. And on the 4th of each month, we are blacking out. We are not spending any dollars whatsoever on that day. So it's kind of a 2-day. And the way we're building up is consciously, psychologically building yourself up. And this is not something that may happen overnight, but it's something that we want to put into your lexicon that you can start thinking every month. Oh, okay, you know what? I need to make my my little payment to my favorite content creator. So each month we have a few different content creators that we support on a rotating basis. So they can continue to bring forth the information that you enjoy, that we definitely enjoy. Some of it makes us laugh, some of it makes us think, and that's how we're using our dollars. We encourage you to use your dollars and find out. And as we go a little further down, I want to share with you some thought-provoking questions that you could ask, especially when we get down to the culture.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not only on social media where they can spend their money.
Okay, great. So you're going to speak a little louder so I can hear you.
Who did we interviewed? Well, we mentioned last week Oasis.
We had mentioned Oasis, and this week I want to make sure we give a shout out to Browns Market. So
in Forestville.
That's in Forestville. Mm-hmm. One of the things. Well, you went there when I was sick, right?
Yeah, when you were sick, Gabby was sick. I mean, I've known about Browns Market for a long time. They're natural. It's a natural food, herb, and other things. So check them out in Forestville, off of Pennsylvania Avenue if you don't know about them. But they have a lot of good teas, cough medicine. I think that's what I got us. Oils, things like that. And then they have food, natural foods. They have probiotics, which work really well. So check them out.
Okay. So we want to bring up our guest today to join the conversation. This is Dr. Salim Bilal. He's a respected consultant with organizational management and social issues in urban environment. He's written articles on school to prison pipeline, education, miasma. He's going to correct me on that. I know. Hopefully, miasma. Yes. Okay. And systemic breakdown in urban community. So as we bring on our guests, let's give a big, warm welcome to Mr. Dr. Salim Bilal. Yes. How you doing, sir?
Good afternoon.
Yes, man. It is great. It is great to have you on here with us, and we totally appreciate it. I guess we're gonna have to move over now. Because the wonders of live recording. There we go. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you. Obviously, I know you quite well, but for those who don't know you, can you do a slight introduction for yourself so we can understand a little bit better about who Dr. Salim Bilal is?
Before I go to back to the market, yeah,
I,
about to
I,
move.
I think you're breaking up. I think you're breaking up a little bit.
I, thank
Is it-
Now when I gotta check because you were coming through perfectly. You were coming through perfectly. Say that one more time. I'm gonna put you on the.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, that is much better. Go ahead, doctor.
Okay, first I wanted to say I was at Browns Market this week. I got my iron pills and my vitamin C at Browns Market this week. So yes, I also support Browns Market.
Mhm.
Black been there for a while. Good to the community, good people who work there and own it. And so yeah, shout out to Browns Market. A little bit about myself. I'm a native Washingtonian. Southeast born, Southeast bred. When I die, I'll be Southeast dead.
There you go.
Um, and so I've been working in the social services or in social environment for I'm not going to date myself about 40 years, and I've done been doing consulting work for the last 25, 30 years.
Okay. Okay. Now we want to jump into some of these topics that we were. I guess we had a conversation earlier this was it earlier this week. We had a
Correct.
conversation and you really had my mind racing. So the reason I like just picking up the phone and talking to you is because whenever we get off the phone, my mind expands just a little bit more. And I thought at that time I said, the words that we hear from you, and I say this about every conversation that we had. If we could just turn on a microphone, I believe our community could be better just listening on some of the things that just everyday people talk about and how we can move forward. So I really enjoyed that. So, but I wanted to jump into our first topic, and our first topic was how can we move forward if we don't know how we got here? And that thinking about psychologically, we have been beat down so for so many years. And the way that I walk through it, and I say, I actually, we as African Americans, we've only been part of this system since 1965. That's what I believe, and I believe that we were moving forward. I'm probably part of the problem, as I explained to you earlier. I'm part of the problem because as the culture expanded and we had integration, I bit hook, line, and sinker into the integration, and my blinders was on about we were moving forward. There's no way we can be stopped as a nation. We were going to move forward together, and I was sorely wrong. So how do you feel about that?
One, I want to say, Dr. Martin Luther King posed the question: are we integrating into a burning house?
Mm,
Which is very thought provoking. But one of the things I want to go back to probably the baby boomers. If we look at it historically from the boomers forward, the baby boomers were benefactors of BEOG grants, Pell grants, and many of us got our education virtually leaving school with virtually little or no student loans. And we took that money and went out into the urban community, well, suburban community. We left the urban community virtually bankrupt of educational and intellectual resources. And so when we left the neighborhood, only thing was left there was the hood. And
mm,
so the baby boomers. So we talk about the hood. At first, when I was growing up, we always talk about the neighborhood, the community. Now we
mm-hmm.
just talk about the hood. In my mind, part of that is the baby boomer generation leaving the neighborhood socially, morally, economically bankrupt. And so what was left was the hood.
Mhm. I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
We migrated
We
out to the suburbs. Who the ones that could,
okay.
and like you said, the ones that couldn't left behind.
Yeah, I remember coming out from leaving Southeast and coming out to Fort Washington, Maryland, it seemed like a long way away at that time. And I actually had to, as a kid, I was taking a nap coming out here, so I thought it was a long way away. I had never seen, coming from Southeast, I had never seen, when we would go to Camp Brown, I had never seen deer, had never seen horses, had never seen cows. So that was a new concept to me. And coming and getting into that integration, it was a learning curve for me. So even though I was, trying to, I guess, integrate and assimilate, that's probably what I was trying to do. I saw what was around me, and I wanted to say, okay, what is more acceptable? How can I make myself more acceptable into this culture that I'm going into, this new culture that I'm going into? Because growing up in Southeast, all I knew was the wrecks, and playing out in the streets all day until the lights come on. When you come out to the suburbs, as soon as it started getting dark, it's time to go inside. So it was a culture shock and to my body, but I had to adjust, and I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I recall when you all moved to the suburbs, and the community that you moved into, if I can recall, was still predominantly white.
Yes.
And your family wasn't accepted very well. I remember your father's van getting egged, toilet paper, and so we moved into a community that really didn't want us. And so when we talk about integrating, we integrating into a culture that really don't care anything about us, and we leaving a culture that really loved us. And so when we look back into the early 50s, 60s, and 70s, when we couldn't move to the suburbs, I'll take a community like Detroit Park.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit Park in DC, you had teachers, doctors, lawyers, dentists, all living in the same community because we weren't accepted or welcomed out into the suburbs. We wasn't welcome into the great rich. Fort Washington was rich back then. If you lived in Fort Washington, rich, you had money.
You had money. They thought you did.
They thought you did, right. And so when we look at that, we moved to places that really didn't want us. And we took our money and our dollars to communities that really didn't want us. And what we did was left the community bankrupt. The A&Ps and the Giants and the Safeways were prevalent in our communities. Now in the Southeast, we had very few grocery stores. And so it was left as convenience stores. I would say mom and pop stores, but they're convenience stores, and we don't own them for the most part. And if you go into those stores, I will tell people, look at the expiration date on things in there, because a lot of the things that they sell are expired. So yes, indeed, I've done it. In fact, I was in Safeway. I'm not going to say where it was, but it was in DC. And I was with someone who was out of town, and I said, let's look at the expiration. This was Safeway. And in Safeway, I'm looking at expired food. And so this is what our people are eating. And so when you have bad food, you can't have bad health. And you have to look at the cyclical effect of that, or I should say the interconnectedness is all related. So you have health, education. When you have poor health, poor education, poor resources, you can't have nothing but poor thinking. And so how can you expect someone to have healthy thinking when they live in an unhealthy environment?
Yeah. And as kids, we don't really understand how the health needs really affect us. All we know is now latest cotton candy. And if that's what, especially I can tell you, because I work probably in the Southeast. I worked at Safeway, and I saw the pricing. No, I'm talking about when I worked there. I literally worked there.
I was just giving comment. It wasn't the Safeway that you worked.
Okay.
It was the other Safeway in Ward 7.
Okay. But I can look at the prices, because we changed prices. I was the file maintenance clerk, and we changed prices every Wednesday. And I could see the prices and compare and contrast the prices that we would put up, and compare and contrast that to when you go to the suburbs and you saw those prices and you saw how much they had to pay. When you saw that the ramen noodles were 3 packs for 99 cents. That was it. That was easy. That was simple because they wanted us to use that money. You saw how the foods that were good for us were high priced and they weren't, and it was difficult for you to purchase with the dollars that you had. But then contrast that when you go out to the suburbs, you'll see those same healthy foods at a lower price. And the reason that I would always think is because we know and we understood that the people who lived in Southeast, who lived in Ward 7, they had no choice. They were like a prisoner. They were a prisoner in Ward 7 because the only options they had was to pay more to take the bus, because most of them didn't have cars, to pay more to take the bus to ride out to the suburbs to pay less money. And then by the time you do the calculations in your mind, you believe it's not even worth my time, my effort, and my money to get on the bus to go out there. I'd rather pay these high prices where I am, even if I know and I understand that I'm being taken advantage of, but I have no other options. And it's a sad situation.
A lot of times they didn't even know.
Yeah, sometimes they didn't know. Yeah.
You don't know if that's your community, if that's where you are. You can't really get out and go places, so you don't know until somebody brings it up to you and tells you. Then what you're gonna do?
Yeah, you're right. You don't have any choices.
Baba D. Gregory posed a question or made the statement some years ago about marketing, and I'm gonna use Pepsi Cola or Coca Cola. I can't remember which one he used, but he said, "Don't you think that Coca Cola, Pepsi Cola know where the black market is? And don't you think that they're able to put something different in the Coca-Cola that goes into the black communities versus the Coca-Cola communities?" And so we have to look at what's going into our communities. That's one thing. But also, when we look at the steel spirit industries, I should say, the liquor industries, and the poor communities, you have malt liquor. You go out to Potomac, Maryland, you're not gonna find malt liquor in the liquor. Damn, matter of fact, there's not even liquor stores out there. It's called wine and spirits. They have liquor.
So you're saying they have liquor stores in it? They have liquor stores in the inner cities. They have wine and spirits in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. For the most part, and so don't you think that wine and spirits have different ingredients in what they have there than what the liquor store have in our community? For example, there's a store in Southeast DC. I'm going to name the store, Lee's Market. Because it's true. So, it's not like I'm disparaging anything, but when Lee's Market first opened, it was a convenience store. Over time, they got their liquor license and they sold less food in there. And if you go in there today, you'll see more alcohol and lottery sales than you will food. And so we, in our community, we allowed that to happen. Nobody spoke up and petitioned against them having a liquor license in our community. We allowed that to happen. And so we are part of the problem when we allow people to come into our communities, bring bad food, bad alcohol, bad whatever, take our money and go out into the suburbs and don't spend a dime and back into our communities. If you go into that market, and I have nothing against people taking care of their own, but you don't see any workers from the community in there. And so my thought is that whatever store, organization, program that's operating in the Black and brown community, they need to invest in that community, whether it's financial resources, whether it's hiring people, or whether it's just giving back some kind of way. We need to hold them accountable, or they can't be in our communities.
Okay, good. That's a good word. That's a good word. I love that. Did you want to add anything before?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I like what he said.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna end that right. Put a pin in that one right there, and we're gonna move on to our next topic, and it's about cultivating our dollars. And you kind of touched on this a little earlier about how we are cultivating our dollars. Where are we putting our dollars? I was thinking about this as we were preparing for this topic, and I understood and I started thinking in my mind, we're probably at the, I guess you want to say the top or the bottom. Let's say the top. And we are workers. So by us working, we get an income, we pay taxes. Our taxes move down to the government. The government is the biggest bucket there is. We're probably at the top and we're the smallest bucket. So we have an income, and every time we spend an income, someone makes a profit. Where does that profit go? That profit goes down to a business. Typically is going to go down to a business. But we at the top level, we have income, we pay our taxes, we try to do a little bit of saving. As I look at the numbers, the average 65-year-old has only $60,000 saved at 65 years old, only $60,000. So what does that mean in real life to us trying to look at retirement? At 60, when you have $60,000 in your account and you're earning 7% interest, that's $350 a month income. That's only $350 a month income coming into your household. Now we understand that big bucket, which is the government at the bottom, they're already telling us they want to take away that support system, which most people are paying into through their taxes, which is Social Security. So they want to take that net away from us. So we paying our taxes into a system that doesn't want to take care of us when we get older, as far as a monthly income, or I think it's Medicaid is Poor Plus, but Medicare is when you're a senior, and when you become into your seniors. So they're taking away that nest egg that's at the bottom where the government is. We're putting our money into the businesses. The businesses then put their money, reinvest it back into their companies, take profits, and then from the rest of it, then they pay taxes to the big, to the big gulf at the bottom, which is ultimately supposed to take care of everyone above them. So I was thinking about how could we do this? If we, and I think I want to piggyback on what you were saying, we would have to, one or two things. One, at our level, but as we said, the money that we have, the average person is saving what, $1,000, $1,300 a month up until they're 65, and that gives them about a little bit over $60,000 saved up from working 40 years, a little bit over $1,500 a year. I'm sorry, $1,500 a year savings. So the workers really don't have the income to make any true impact. So then the second part goes to the businesses. We spend the GDP is in effect because 70% of that comes from us spending our money. So now I believe it's incumbent upon us, because we already know the government, who's at the last bottom, they're not going to do anything for us. At the top, the people who are working, they don't have money to make any change. So I think it's incumbent upon us to put pressure on the businesses. Government is not going to change because they're going to get their money either from us or from the business. Then now they're saying they're not going to take care of us. So I believe it's incumbent upon us to put pressure on the businesses to reinvest back into our communities, to begin to take care of our people before that money then goes into the taxes. So some of that money that they're even paying their taxes with can go into a nonprofit organization. They can open up a food bank. They can open they can open up a shelter. They can open up an educational center. So I believe it's incumbent upon us to put pressure on the businesses, because the government's not moving. They're like, man, we're going to get ours either way.
So when you say put pressure on the businesses, what is it that you think that the business is going to do?
Well,
or what can we take away when you say pressure? What are we threatening them? I mean,
basically, yes, because I've been using the term value-based spending. And I started thinking, well, what does that really mean? Okay, so we can spend our money in with black or quote unquote allied businesses, but what does that truly mean? And doesn't
who? The person that's spending the money, or the person that's receiving the money? Which one are you?
What does that mean to us who are spending our money? Spending our money with a black or allied business, what does that mean?
I mean, when you brought it up, and started using that
The term.
value
Mm-hmm.
based spending to me meant, where do I find the value in the different stores that I
Ah,
go to?
okay. Okay.
For example, the pharmacist. I had to go to CVS yesterday because we're switching Gabrielle's prescription
Mm-hmm.
from CVS to another pharmacy. I went in there. I found no value. I left CVS 4 years ago. CVS was the only place that Gabrielle's prescription
Mm-hmm.
could be filled. Here I am. Gabrielle's prescription could be filled, so we had no choice but to go there. But while I was there, I felt absolutely disrespected. Um, they were at lunch from 1 to 2. They came back about 2:10, 2:15, but there was a huge line by this time. I got there at 5 minutes to 2. There was 3 people. By the time 2 p.m. came along, it was like 10 people standing in line, and they moseyed on in, didn't even look our way, and went behind the counter. Which, so I was absolutely upset, and I said, "This is why I stopped spending my money here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There is no value there for me because you don't respect me." So yes, I found another place to go. So that to me, the value is in the treatment.
Of how you were, how you were
Yeah,
being treated.
how you're being treated. The value is in, it's the customer service. For me, it's the customer service. If I ask a question, I need you to go in depth with your answer, not make me feel like I'm being brushed off. And everybody knows CVS is expensive. So if you're going in there to spend your money, unfortunately, in the we're in the suburbs, but we're still very close to the city
Mm-hmm.
where we live. So I kind of feel like I'm being taken advantage of anyway. So if I'm going to spend my money, I'm going to spend my money where I feel valued, and that's what I thought.
Ah, okay. What Dr. Salim, when you hear the term value based spending, what do you hear?
Well, I want to go back and respond to a few things that you all said. I want to go back to Social Security because they keep moving the goalposts on us. First, I look forward to becoming 55 so I can get Social Security. When I got 54, went up to 62. Then I get
Mm.
62, 7. I mean, they keep moving the goalposts. And so
Mm-hmm.
how do we catch up? So every time we get close, the goalpost is moved. Um, and and so when you start talking about healthcare and Social Security, um, that what you thought you was getting at 62, now they talking about 67 to be full Social Security. I think it may be 70 now. So they keep moving the goalposts.
They moved it
But
again. Oh my god.
yeah, I think 70. So to also respond to something you said, Frank, is that you said that we need to hold the businesses accountable. I'm going to say that I don't think that's going to happen because the business is not going to do anything if they keep making money. We need to hold the politicians accountable. We need to
Okay.
hold them accountable and say that any business that started in our community have to give X amount of dollars back to the
That's a
community.
great. That's a great idea.
Because if I have a store in the community and it's not mandated for me to give anything back, I'm not giving anything back. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna take it all to the suburbs where I live and continue to leave that community bankrupt because I'm the only pony in town. I'm the only show in town. So if I'm the only convenience store that you can go to, what incentive is there for me to give back when I'm all you got? But if
Mhm.
we hold the feet to the fire and say, look, we mandate that whoever start a business in this community, they have at least 10%, 20% of the people who work in that business got to come from the community. They
Mm-hmm.
got to give 10 back to the community, whether it's in goods or services or money. Somehow, I don't think that will do it on their own. So we have to hold the politicians' feet to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to value added, um, that is I'm not gonna say tricky, but that comes off in several different ways because um, value is demanded, and so when we talk about value, we have to demand and we have to vote with our dollars. And a lot of times, it may be inconvenient for us to go further out or go someplace else that's not in our neighborhood to get goods and services from people who respect us. We get comfortable just going to the stores and let them continue to disrespect us. But we need to vote with our dollars. And so we need to stop patronizing those places that don't treat us well.
What other options do you think that we have? As you said, we're kind of a captive audience. So how do we become uncaptive, for lack of a better term?
One of the things is we have to go back to the attitude that they had back in the 50s. I'm thinking about the Montgomery Bus boycott, where they did not ride the buses for a year. Uh, I don't know if we had that mindset today. Are we going to boycott a system? Are we going to take our dollars further out, or strategically spend our dollars someplace else that's not our community because it's convenient for us? And so we continue to go off convenience and be disrespected instead of voting with our dollars and going to places where we are respected. And so when we do that, then those stores or those organizations and businesses in our community, they will begin to respect us because the dollars are going to go elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I was sharing with you too that I took it hook, line, and sinker. I was like Pookie from New Jack City. They was like, man, take some convenience right here, Frank. Just go ahead and take a little bit of convenience. I'm like, well, how much is it? It doesn't cost you a dime. Just take a little bit of it, okay? And as I took it, I got used to it. And now the further they move the goalposts, instead of me changing my behavior, I continued my behavior because of that convenience that they continued to give me. So at some point, we all have to get there. I don't know when it's going to come for, each person gets there in their own time, but that convenience factor sets in, and you're just like, you know what, this convenience is not worth my dignity. And that when you put those on a scale, do I give up my dignity or do I give up my convenience? Do I say, okay, you know what, you're not going to treat me this way, and I'm going to withhold my dollars because it's going to be inconvenient. I may have to go another 2 or 3 miles past this store to get to another store that treats me better. We have, like you said, we have to begin talking with our dollars and leave that convenience part alone.
We may not have a choice soon with segregation on the rise.
What you mean?
I mean, for me, when you say convenience in the community, Target, Walmart, Giant, Safeway, Walgreens, CVS, all of these places are right here. For example, I prefer to shop at Walmart over Target because I thought the prices for the same product were cheaper at Walmart.
Okay.
Walmart is 10 minutes away? But now I don't want to shop at Walmart, and I'm not going to shop at Target. So where am I going to go for certain things? So you got to start doing your research, and you go where you feel valued.
Yeah, we still have to start being forward thinkers. I was thinking about that when I was just getting my shaving stuff, and I said, well, you know what? Let me just try to go to the dollar store. And here's the thing. But now that I'm thinking about it, there is a dollar store in Clinton that's owned by an African American right by the Smoothie King. So whenever I need to go to the dollar store, I know I can go to his establishment to get the little small things that I need, and that's right across the street from Walmart. So
yeah, but we have a Family Dollar right around the corner, which is more convenient. But I used to shop with him in Clinton when I was out on that side. But like you said, we have to get away from this, it's convenient, it's around the corner, and recognize where we need to really spend our money. If you want, that's the only way a boycott, in my opinion, is going to work. If we, Target, like who was it? Reverend, I forgot his name, did the Target for 40 days.
Oh, okay. Jamal.
Blackout Target. Yeah, Jamal. We have to be specific and do those things. And I know people are going to still go to Target, Walmart, Walgreens, CB, all of those giants. But if at some point segregation is implemented not only in the government, but they allow everybody to do whatever they want to do. How you going to feel when they when they have their security standing in front of the door and saying, we don't want you here? What you going to do then? Look, oh, well, where am I going to get my groceries? You should have been thinking about that, and already started looking for places where you can shop. Yes, it may be a little bit more expensive, but the more we go, hopefully the prices will be comparable to those places that we are conveniently going to.
Yeah.
Both of you maybe put on my mental health clinician hat. Frank, I want you to go back and give the analogy.
Did you freeze up?
Can you?
Yeah, you must have froze up. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
No, he's still frozen.
Go back and give the analogy of you taking a little piece of here, a little piece of there, the Pookie analogy. Give that analogy again.
When I was having the convenience and they were giving me the convenience of, hey, Frank, just go ahead and take this. You know, the store's right around the corner. Hey, Frank, you don't have to go anywhere. Just all you have to do is just pay a little bit more, and we'll bring it to you. You don't have to do anything. The convenience of, and I'm getting psychological now. The convenience of you're going to feel better. We're going to let you assimilate. We're going to allow you to assimilate. And these people who used to didn't like you, because as you saw how we were treated when we first moved out to Fort Washington, Maryland. Well, now the convenience of now more YT people are going to treat you a little bit better. That convenience, that landing pad where you thought you might have to rumble, when now you don't. It became a little softer.
Your analogy that I believe that you used earlier was, they give you a little bit here, they give you a little bit there, and you take it because, it ain't gonna hurt you, it's gonna help you from a mental health clinician standpoint, that's the attitude and behavior of a drug dealer feeding an addict.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah. and that's what it is.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yes. And they've been doing that in our community for years and years and years. And now we're hooked. And that's what we do. We look for the convenience as consumers, and they know that. And and they put these particular stores in our neighborhood, which kind of any of our people, Black-owned businesses or allied businesses, they can't compete really, and they have to raise their prices. So people will go to them if it's right around the corner. Mm-hmm. I'll stop there because it's so and so is closed, but they're open. I'll go there. Yeah, I'll pay a little bit more, but dang, I should have went to Walmart earlier today and got whatever it is I was supposed to be getting. But you know who spends in there? Hispanics. They go right to their store.
Oh, right at the top of the hill.
La Colonia.
La Colonia. And
yeah.
Right
they
there.
Go right
the
there.
Prices are much higher,
yes.
But you see nothing but Spanish people in that market, because they are going to support that market, and they could probably go down the street and pay less prices, but
but they are true to their culture. They support. We don't. That's
where you said earlier, you talk about going to places that don't respect you, instead of going 3, 4, 5 miles out to some place that do respect you. Again, putting on my mental health clinician hat, what you described was an abusive relationship.
Not me, baby. Not me, baby.
And I was very disturbed yesterday. I let them know that I was pulling my prescription with her prescription. I'm done with CVS, and I didn't want her to have it there. But at the time, that's the only place that conveniently had it. Okay, but no, I went back and I stopped shopping at CVS during the pandemic. Right after that, when they had 30, 40 people standing in a cluster in the back, in front of the pharmacy desk, and they're moseying around, Some people were there for shots. Some people were there for prescription. And I'm like, okay, I don't know who's sick in here. You know, you got all of these people jumbled up in here. And I gave them a bad Google review. And I told them, I'm never coming back here. This is how you treat us. And they still treat. Well, Black Kitty's back.
Yeah, Jazz was back. Jazz was back.
Say hi to the camera,
Say hi,
Black
Jazz.
Kitty. Yes.
And so when we think about an abusive relationship, a lot of times people say abusive relationships because it's convenient. That's all they know. And just think from it economically, we continue to go to those same places that abuse us, that treat us like crap because it's convenient. You know, that's the only place we know. Instead of getting out of that abusive relationship, going someplace else where we respect us, respect our dollar, you know, respect us as human beings.
Because we feel, oh, it's not that bad. We can go there. I know I shouldn't be coming here, but it's right down the street and I'm tired. You know, no, you got to take the extra. At this point, we have to take the extra steps. We have to push ourselves, get out of that abusive relationship. Let's get some therapy, y'all. Let's get some therapy. We need it. And I think platforms like this one and others and anybody out there can create a platform. You can just start talking to your neighbor or your friend or your coworker and letting them know, hey, we have to think. We have to think about the choices, and we have choices, but we choose not to use them because convenience is king, I suppose. You know, and the other world, yes, convenience is comfortable, and the other world knows that that's what we like to be, you know, convenience, and they dangle certain things in front of us. Here it is, dangle certain things in front of us, and we are hook, line, and sinker. So. Just like that fish market that I refuse to go to.
Oh, yeah. So they're going back to the fish market now. They're going
But
back.
it is owned by someone else, but still, it's not owned by us.
Well, let me actually transition real quick, and I wanted to, and I wanted to kind of move along, and I wanted to talk about some of the economics, okay, and the culture. So as we're transitioning, and we want to talk about the culture, so how do you see, as we said, you know, sometimes it's not all about the money; it's about building up the culture, and how do we build up our culture? What type of tools can we utilize? I know we talked about maybe some food pantries, you know, building up some food pantries. But what are some of the things you think we could do to help bring our community together?
Before I answer that, I do want to go back to the last topic of economics. Where do we spend our dollars? Where do we go? So one of the things is that it is said that Blacks' spending power is 1.9 trillion. Well, by the end of 2025, will be 1.9 trillion dollars. That's what they say our spending power is. But if we look at the global aspect of it, I can't remember who put out this study, but Blacks with bachelor's degrees have $52,000 worth of student loans. And so if you look at all of the Blacks with, this is bachelor's degrees. We're not talking about
the masters
or PhDs. We talk bachelor's degrees. I mean, or doctorate degrees, right? We talking about bachelor's degrees, $52,000. And also when we look at Blacks and Hispanics who graduate 4 years after college, they their student loan debt is 188% more than white students' student borrowers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that $1.9 trillion ain't really $1.9 trillion. And so when we also look at where Black people spend and what they spend on, I think it was Nielsen who said that Blacks and Hispanics spend 30% of their money on visible goods. Visible goods meaning houses, cars, clothes. And so 30% of that is on visible goods because we want to look good, you know. And
It's a
poor community,
psychological thing. It's all psychological.
it
And
is, it is.
that's something
That's
else
saying,
that has been instilled in us. But go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
yeah, that same. I don't know if it was that study, but I think it was Wharton School of Business. Their study said that primarily, you know, poor people spend this money because of what you just said, Maria. Psychologically, they want that status, and so having that darn watch or having that car or wearing those clothes give you a semblance of status, you
Mm-hmm.
know, perceived. And so we spending our money to try to keep up with the Joneses. But I'm gonna let you on a little secret. I met the Joneses. They poorer than I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the Joneses they had what I had, and so we spending all our money trying to keep up with the Joneses. They broke too, and so
The Joneses are broke too. That's I like that one. That's a bar right there.
yeah, and so what we really have to start doing is act our wage. You know,
Mm.
it's,
So you gotta say that one more
we're
time.
living,
Do what? Act what?
act our wage.
Act our wage.
Yes, act our wage. You know, and so we are going out here and buying these extravagant things, and we poor, we broke. You know, and so we spending all our money on jewelry, and we don't have anything in the refrigerator. We spend all our money on clothes, and we eating and fast food. All these things that just really continue to kill us and destroy us. And
Mm-hmm.
so I apologize for going back. I didn't answer your question about the culture moving forward.
No, you
And so,
good. You good.
It needs
but
to be said. It needs it. What you're saying needs to be said. Hopefully, it's being heard, um, so that the culture can sit back and really analyze themselves and say, "Hey, do I really spend too much? I got all these shoes in here that I can't wear but one at a time, but I have like bookshelves or whatever, rolls and rolls of these shoes, and you can sell them, I guess, and make some money. But what if you had taken that same money and put it in the stock market or bought,
Yeah.
policies or things that can make you money?
Well, I think with the culture, we have been through the media. We have been marketed to for so long, and I believe it's just going to take almost a generation from right now. It's going to take at least 15 years minimum, 40 years, 15 to 40 years to change our culture, because it's going to have to start with our young people. We're going to have to change their mindset, build them up, and then they can then move, take it to another level. If we start educating our kids now about finances at a younger age, if we start changing the culture now, if we begin starting the culture now about educating them about wealth building, about team building, about working together rather than separate. If we again, this is just me talking. I believe that from elementary all the way to sixth grade, well up to fifth grade, right before you go to middle school, I believe you should be using pencils and usually be pencils, papers, and books, so you can utilize more of your senses and not sit back and just watch a monitor. And I believe that they are lulling us and putting us to sleep so they can take advantage of it. And once we start utilizing those senses and firing some of those, the hear, see, touch, using those senses rather than sitting back and being dormant, we begin to be more creative. Once we start moving that pen, ideas start coming to us, and different, what they say, nerves that wire together fire together. So once we start moving that pen and we start designing, there's a reason why people who are in the arts and music, who are creative, while they putting pen to paper, they have these visions on how to move things forward. People who sit back and just scroll on a computer all day, we are going to be the consumers for a while to come. And I believe from elementary, we need to start having them, write, use pencil, crayon,
They do.
pencils.
In
But a lot of times
elementary.
in elementary, right? But oftentimes now they give them a computer. and all they have to do is hit on some code. And so the answers are already there. So I just believe the creativity is falling by the wayside because we're not having the kids utilize more of their senses.
Mm-hmm. I
I,
don't
I,
know if I agree with that. Go ahead.
But go ahead.
I promise. I do want to get where you are, Frank, on the culture piece, but I want to look at some numbers.
Sure,
You know,
sure, sure.
because I knew we was going to have this conversation, I went and looked at some numbers. And so culturally, the Black culture, we spend $51 million a year on ethnic hair and beauty aids. We spend $152 million on women's fragrance, $62 million on men's toiletry, $573 million on personal soap and bath needs, $761 million on frozen and unprepared meat and seafood. Um, and this is from Nielsen. This is not Celine. This is from Nielsen. And what blew my mind, we spent $122 million on gum, GUM,
Gum,
gum.
chewing gum.
How much?
Yes,
How much?
122 million on 120
On
million.
gum.
On gum. Yeah, that's why they have them at the front, right there is a impulse buy at every grocery store.
We spent $810 million on bottled water. Do you know how much money you can save if you just got filtered, put in your house, and drink filtered water? It's the same thing. I mean, if you look
No,
at those bottles,
no,
it ain't nothing. Yeah,
no.
yeah.
It's a
And you drink it out of
psychological
plastic.
thing. I
Right?
will not drink that tap water. I will not do it.
And you drink
Even
the
if you
bottled
put a
water out
filter
of plastic.
on there. Huh? Say that again.
I said, but even when you drink bottled water, you drink it out of plastic,
I
which ain't
know.
healthy for you.
I know. It's a psychological thing. It
They do.
used to come way back, I think, because that's what I grew up drinking out of they used to have this little stand and you put your bottle, but it was a glass. I thought it was glass. I think
Yeah.
it was. And you just tip it over and the water goes. It's been a long time since I've been drinking.
But drinking out of plastic is the same.
Yeah,
Well,
and then
we're
they
putting
went to
those right.
plastic.
They put those plastics
Yeah,
in there.
and that chemical leaches into the water. But
Psychological.
But yeah, I just wanted to add that piece in. But when we look at the culture, one of the things we have to do is get back to community. That's something we got away from. Um, I know growing up, if I did something, the neighbor done told on me before I got home. If the neighbor done whooped my behind before I got home. But now we live in a culture today, you better not touch my child. And so I think we had this conversation the other day, Frank, when I was talking. I remember having a board of education in school. you know, I think you called it Mr. Right.
Mr. Do Right.
Or, yeah, the board of education. And so it was no problem. And the board of education was a paddle that had suction holes in it. So it wasn't just going to hit you behind and pop off. It was going to suck you behind in there. So, feel that thing. And was I gonna go home and tell my parents that I got hit by my teacher? No, I was gonna get a whooping at home. And so, but and so that has gone by the wayside. Now I'm not advocating abuse on any level, but I am saying that we need to get back to having some discipline. We need to get back to having a sense of community where our neighbor is able to discipline our child, even if their neighbor's not putting a hand on them. They're able to
right.
discipline that child. Even the neighbor, for example, growing up, we knew all our neighbors. I can tell you now, most of us probably, we knew everybody on our street, everybody on our block. I don't think that's the case now. I mean, most of us live in communities where we may know our next door neighbor on the right and on the left, maybe we want to cross the street, but we don't know people in our community. So we need to get back to community. And when we start getting back to community, then we can begin to collectively come together. And I'm still got to go back to economics. And so, especially in this environment, if we look at community, we go to Costco's. Just, I'm not gonna say Sam's. Sam's is Walmart, but we go to Costco's. I don't know if they're any better, but we buy in bulk. And so I don't need 1,000 rolls of toilet paper, but together we put our money in together. And so we are saving money as a community. We're buying all this stuff together. And so as a culture, we need to get back to community, being community oriented. I know that I think, Maria, you talked about the Hispanic culture earlier. They don't mind living in households where they 10 deep, 3, 4 families living in the house. That ain't happening now, with us. And so we need to get back
It
to a
might
sense of community.
start. It may
Yeah,
start
yeah.
all these layoffs. People don't have jobs. They're gonna have to do something because all the people that are laid off, I don't believe that there's enough jobs out there for everybody. They're going to be created. I hope, assume, but that's not happening. So people are going to be moving in back home with parents or moving cousins. It's gonna happen.
Well, my thought process on that is that the reason that they're not pushing a lot of college right now, not only just because of finances, but if you have a college degree, you may be overqualified for those jobs that they are deporting now, and you believe that, hey, I can't get out there and dig a ditch. Like you said, I have $52,000 in student loan debt. I need to take a higher position. I can't take this minimum wage position that you want to give me. I will never ever ever get out this situation. And so my belief is that they having a lot of low educated white people not go to college so they can begin to take these positions. We as African Americans, we want to go to college and we are going to get these degrees. I'm encouraging more and more black men. I think they did a study that 7 or 8 years ago there was 36% of men on campus, and now there are only 20% males on a college campus. So we're not even going to school. So the more women are having degrees, more women are going to be in control. But we as men, especially the culture where the YT man, they look at women as being a little less than. They're taking their rights away now, any way that they can take those rights away. So I believe that we are going to have to get our degrees, understand that we're going to have to start in the community and build the community. Somebody's going to have to take the reins, and it's going to be someone who's going to give us hope, who's going to have a vision that we can go towards, and they're going to have a detailed plan that's going to be put in place. And if they have those three things, I think that we can at least start moving forward.
When you say moving
You know,
forward, I mean move forward in creating our own
In our own community, right? In our own
community,
in our own
banks,
community.
our own doctors.
That's going to be that's a far to me. I've listened to John Hope Bryan, and I hear him say by 2053 that we're supposed to. I can't remember the number, but 2053 is what, maybe 25, 28 years from now. So someone being born now, by the time they're 30 years old, we're supposed to be the dominant force in economics.
Who is we?
African Americans. I don't know if that's going to be true, just simply based on a power struggle. Those who are in control, it's going to be a power struggle for them to release that control. They may, even if they don't have the money, they still want to have the power. So it's somewhere along the line, we have to understand that as a culture, is African Americans in a culture, we're going to have to band together, not only financially, but we're going to have to band together culturally and say, some people are going to be left behind. That's going to be an honest to God truth. Some people are going to be left behind, but we're going to have to start thinking differently. That we're going to have, that we're going to have to stick together. America is separating. America is making different. It's going to be low income, almost maybe low to no income, and then high income. And those at the low to mid to low are going to have to understand, hey, you know what? We're going to have to band together, and we become more powerful if we do stick together, rather than, like you say, us all trying to have our own to reach the top, and we're trying to crawl over each other just to get to the top.
I like John Hope Bryan, but if John Hope Bryan said what you said, that math ain't mathing to me.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
That math ain't mathing. And the reason I say that is because, again, if we look back at the student loans, and so $52,000 for a bachelor's degree is the average payback of student loans. And when you have jobs that's not paying you $52,000, I don't see how that math adds up. So, and when we look at the other side of it is, the systemic biases. uh, Blacks and Hispanics um, are not able to get the same loans as whites, even though they may have the same credit score, even though they may have the same amount in the bank account. We still don't get those loans, and if we do get them, the interest rates are much higher. And so we need to look at black banking. We need to look at creating things in our community that's going to give us, because we're not getting it at the banking institutions now.
Mm. Woo, well, all right. This has been a real interesting conversation, and I truly appreciate your time, Dr. Celine.
We'll have to have you back.
Yes, look, anytime.
You can join us.
Yeah, you know how to get in contact with us. Yeah. So as we land this plane, was there anything that you wanted to add before we get out of here, Maria?
No, I guess we need to go over the Blackout the 4th one more time.
Okay.
With
Yep, and simply, or guys, Blackout the 4th is it's a drop in the bucket, and we're doing it one drop at a time. Every third of the month, we are value-based spending directly with a Black or allied business. We're consciously doing this. Again, for us, on the third of the month, that's when we make our monthly payments to our, like I said, our favorite content creator. But we're specific about the money that we're spending on the 3rd of July. We're filling up our tanks on the 3rd of July. We're making our sandwiches on the 3rd of, on not only the 3rd of July, this is the 3rd of July is just the beginning of it, but starting on the 3rd of July. But, even on the 3rd of each month, we're putting all this together. We're setting up. So on the 4th of July, we do not have to spend any money. And we're encouraging you on the 3rd of July, target-based spending. On the 4th of July, like I said, we're putting a drop in the ocean. And maybe if we put a drop in the ocean, and then somebody else put a drop in the ocean, and someone else puts a drop in the ocean, and then next thing you know, we have 200, 300, 400, 500 people putting a drop in the ocean, we can build something ourselves. But one person, it is going to be difficult to just, us not spending any money on the 4th. And why are we picking that day? Is so we can start taking we can start taking a blueprint. I'm sorry, we can begin taking a pinpoint of what's happening on this 4th, or what's happening on this 4th, or what's happening on this 4th. And then we can see how we are affecting the economy on the 4th of each month. If we do it sporadically or just for one day, it's really not going to happen. And the reason we're doing this is so you can psychologically change your mindset. I understand that this is not going to happen overnight. This is going to happen. This is the beginning of a journey. And I'm just encouraging you to join the journey with us. Please take the pledge with us. If you would consider that, go to www.blackoutthefourth.com. Simply take the pledge, put in your name, email address, and your phone number. What that does, that allows us to build up a list. And once we have a list of people who says, hey, I'm willing to take this pledge, we can then take that information and we can say, hey, we got 300,000 people who are willing to take a pledge and not spend money on the 4th of every month, who's going to psychologically begin to do that. Now we begin to have power. We begin to say, hey, maybe we need to listen to them. They've organized, and they have shown that they have done this on a consistent basis. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us doing this on a consistent basis, month after month after month after month. It's going to be dreadful. It's going to be tiresome. But on the 4th of each month, you have to psychologically get yourself together on the 3rd of each month that I am not on the 4th going to spend any money whatsoever. And by us building that up, we'll eventually have what we talked about, the community coming together and being more powerful than any one of us could.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be dreadful and tiresome. It's something that you can get. You can get used to it. You just know that on the 4th, play a game, make it a game.
Yeah.
Where am I going to spend my money
on the
tomorrow?
On the 3rd. Which Black or allied business am I going to spend my money with?
Right. And you can even do your own research. I've always put in Black-owned, whatever, shoe store, and 5 or 6 places will come up and it'll say identify. This is on Google, identified as Black owned. And just go check one of them out. Pick one that you want to check out, who has the most stars in their reviews, and then go and check them out. And I think it'll become, once you realize how many of your own people are in your neighborhood, you'll really say, wow, because I was surprised myself. Just thinking of, I was willing to go out to Baltimore for the market, but now I can go down to Indian Head, which is about 30 minutes closer.
Yeah.
Listen to me, it's convenience.
I'm telling you, we're serious about this.
Yeah. So, but make a game out of it. And you'd be quite surprised at how many of us actually own businesses, small businesses, even people who have a home-based business. Check them out. You can get some nice products for people who selling oils and creams and different things like that. From home, candles. I mean, I try to support, because I am a Black-owned business, so, and I want people to support me too. So I do try to support my people.
Thank you for sharing the live over here on TikTok. We appreciate you. Hey, but Dr. Salim, before we get out of here, what would you like to add any final words? We're going to give you the last word.
No, I'd just like to say thank you for having me, and I hope to come back on soon.
Okay. All right, guys. Hey, this is your partner, Frankie P.
Maria P.
Yes, and for Dr. Salim Bilal. Is there any way to contact you if someone had any questions, Dr. Salim?
The best way probably is to my email. I read all my emails, and that's drsalimbilaledwards@gmail.com.
Got it. Dr. Salim Bilal Edwards at gmail.com. Hey, we're going to get out of here. This is your partner, Frankie P. And remember, when you change your perspective, you change your life. When you change your perspective, you change your life. When you change your perspective, we begin to get our economics together and we start building a culture with the African-American culture. Guess what's going to happen, guys? We're going to change your life. Peace.
Oh, can't see me. Bye,
Thank you for the heart over here on TikTok. Thank you.
Yes, subscribe,
all right.
like.
Yes. All right. Let me finish this first.
So you can see us next.